I hope I'll be able to see my son.
Senhoras e senhores,
Last October, David Goldman nervously took his seat on yet another red-eye to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He'd finally won a small victory. For the first time in 4 years, he'd be allowed to see his son.
You had reason to hope. The courts in Brazil had said that you could see your son for weekend visitation, so you go down there, along with Dateline.
Obviously, it's not my ideal scenario is to go visit my son, but if that's all I got, I'm like, finally.
Rio de Janeiro, nicknamed the Marvelous City, has a seductive appeal, famous for its natural beauty, pulsating rhythms, and tantalizing beaches. But David had come to loathe visiting here.
Just so tired. Mentally, physically.
In his hotel room, David prepared himself for what he knew might be a difficult visit with Sean.
I haven't seen him in 4 years, and who knows what they've said to him.
He packed a suitcase full of gifts, old toys,
He used to love this little rubber frog.
and photos of them as loving father and son.
To help him remember and remind him of our happy life we had.
But as the 8 p.m. visitation time approached, David anxiously eyed the unusually gloomy weather on Copacabana Beach. Was it a foreboding sign?
It's always something, a roller coaster. As soon as you walk out the door, somebody's going to come and say something's changed.
And at 6:50, it did. David's attorney called from court. Bruna's new husband, who was given temporary custody of Sean after she died, had filed a last-minute appeal.
On the 11th hour, it's off.
But just as quickly, the appeal was denied. Bruna's husband, João Paulo Lindsay Silva, was ordered to hand Sean over the next morning.
It's a very positive step from these judges in Brazil to stop bending at everything that this Lindsay Silva guy wants.
Until then, Lindsay Silva, an attorney specializing in family law, had seemed adept at manipulating the system. He got a court to block a Brazilian network from airing an interview with David. Then he tried to impose a blanket ban on all Brazilian media, scaring much of the press into simply steering clear of the story.
He's up against people who have a lot of resources, both in finances and in their influence and abilities.
Doesn't that scare you?
Yeah. What am I going to do? It's not going to make me stop trying to get my son home.
At least David wouldn't be alone. The U.S. ambassador to Brazil had called, promising a representative would be at his side all weekend.
Because my visitation is supposed to begin tomorrow at 8 a.m.
On Saturday morning, the embassy representative in tow, David set out for the gated community where Bruna's parents live, the address her husband had given to the court. While court and police officers went inside to get Sean, David waited anxiously in a secure van. In the back seat, he tried to distract himself with home movies.
I'm working on the railroad.
Nearby, a bodyguard kept watch. After getting those death threats, David was too terrified to take any chances in Rio.
I'm in a foreign country. I don't speak the language. I don't know who to believe, who to trust. Do a somersault.
Minutes, then hours ticked by. David put the movies away. His Brazilian attorney paced the sidewalk. 3 hours of restless waiting, all for nothing. Sean wasn't there.
No one knows where he is. They just know he left yesterday. Lindsay Silva took Sean and left. And I get screwed around again.
How devastated were you?
It's tough, but I wasn't devastated. I'm thinking this guy just broke federal court orders. It's a good thing. Let him do that.
They're going to bring him in now.
They're going to go get him. This is a federal case, and he's interfering with custody.
Did they go get him?
They didn't.
Desperate to see his son, David decided to stay in Rio and wait it out.
These blows keep coming, but they're not going to knock me down.
Too frightened to go anywhere, he spent his days holed up in room 1420. But even there, he wasn't safe.
The front desk keeps calling. There's men waiting. They need you to come down here. And I said, I'm not coming down.
Frantic calls to his attorneys and the embassy reveal that the strange men wanted to serve him papers. Now the Lindsay Silvas were accusing him of defaming their storied family name.
The guy runs and hides, disobeys court orders, and then starts filing lawsuits against me. It's crazy. Where's the justice?
David felt trapped in a city where it seemed no one else had a care in the world.
People are on the beach, having fun, on vacations.
The complaints read to David in court included a demand from the Lindsay Silvas that he somehow stop the press from saying anything negative about their family, even a false claim that he'd been harassing them with a helicopter.
He's accusing me of hiring a helicopter and circling over his house to harass him or something. I mean, it's absurd. My attorney said it's intimidation tactic by this guy. They're trying to do everything they can because the law is totally against them.
David was fed up. He hopped the next flight out of the magnificent city.
He came back without Sean.
Without Sean, without even being able to see Sean. These courts just like thumbing their nose at me saying, well, this guy's been raising him, he's the father figure, you don't even count.
But why? Even the Brazilian authorities working on David's case were urging the government to send Sean home.
If you were a law student and you were going over Hague 101 and they brought you my case, the only answer is to send the child home.
So why do you think, deep down in your gut, why do you think if everything is so clear-cut, you don't have your son?
I don't know. I wish I knew.